Welcome back to the Sports Lab podcast with me and my co-host Thomas Bailey. As we got a lot to get into this week. Last week was a big episode. This week we still have a lot that we weren't able to really get into last week because of how much to talk about last week. So this is kind of like the leftover news, I guess, per se. As we're going to talk about MLB, as spring training finally started, the Four Nations Classic, NBA midseason as they are rolling into the All-Star break after tonight. And then maybe a little bit of Bills news with the recent James Cook extension talks. So yeah, there's a lot to get into in this episode. But first, we're going to start off with baseball. As I said, pitchers and catchers have reported to spring training, which means we are nearing the end of the offseason. And the last big domino to fall and the free agent market, Alex Bregman signed with the Red Sox at 4 years, $120 million. Took less money but higher AAV versus some other teams. The Tigers offered him 6 years, 171 mil. I think the Cubs offered him 4 years, 120 mil. And then I can't remember the other team offered him 6 years, 160 mil. So he took the highest AAV, but the lowest money amount. He's probably banking on himself to get another big contract in 3 years. But anyways, Red Sox fans rejoice. You finally paid someone for the first time ever. So that's cool. I'm as a Yankees fan. I don't like when cool things happen with the Red Sox, but I can't hate on it too much. Other than I just don't know how good he will be. He has kind of declined lately. But besides that, that brings me into my next point. As the offseason has kind of wrapped up, there's still going to be some small movement here or there, maybe a trade or two, as people kind of fill out their rosters. I want to talk about some winners and losers of free agency. Obviously, every year there's teams that get a lot better, teams that get a lot worse. We're gonna kind of go back and forth. I'll ask you your first winner. Then I'll go. We discussed this beforehand, so we all have different teams, so we'll be talking about 8 teams, I guess. 4 total winners, 4 total losers. As I toss over to you, who is the first winner for you for this offseason?
Well, that's got to be my New York Mets, baby. We found a way to get Juan Soto. And I talk to my buddies about this all the time. I was like, listen, if we get Juan Soto, it's pretty much a wrap on Pete Alonso. He's basically as good as gone. And yet, some way, somehow, Steve Cohen gets us both Juan Soto and Alonso back.
Backs up the
So,
Brinks trucks.
yeah, right. Backs up those. The pitching rotation did get a little worse. We did bring back a couple of the guys. We lose out on Luis Severino and a little bit of unfortunate circumstances in regard to that. But still, pitching's been solid. Obviously, bringing Clay Holmes in, I like that move, especially since he'll move to a starting pitcher. Don't want him to be closing games. Just no. Obviously,
As a Yankees fan, I understand that. I don't want him to be closing games either.
Yeah, we got Kodai Senga and David Peterson as a nice little rotation as well.
I wouldn't trust Clay Holmes to close a Little League game.
Yeah, right. We have Sean Manaea still, who we brought back as well. So pitching rotation still solid there. Obviously, it could be a lot better than that. But realistically, I like what the team did. I like that we got Alonso back. We found a way to go out and get Juan Soto in the outfield as well. Just great fit for this team. Excited to see what we can do this year. Lindor, as long as he's back and fully good as he was last season, especially near the end, I think we should have a very good year. Mark Vientos as well, continuing his development. So good offseason for the Mets, and I deem them as one of the big winners of this free agency period.
Boo Juan Soto, boo. As he left my Yankees. But I think they recovered well. I'm not going to talk about them. Obviously, I don't think you can lose out on Juan Soto and be a winner of free agency, but I do think they recovered well from that move with the other moves they made. But the big winner, the obvious one, even though baseball fans across America lost because of this, the Dodgers are a big winner. I mean, bringing Rocky Sasaki, bringing in Blake Snell, bringing in Tanner Scott, basically the best player at every single position they found a way to bring. It's not really fair. It pisses me off as a fan. I really hope that all other 29 owners look at I guess 28 because the Mets are kind of doing the same thing. All 28 other owners look at what the Dodgers and Mets are doing and being like, we need a salary cap and we need a salary floor, because a salary floor will also do as much as salary cap, because then it'll cause these smart market teams to actually have to spend money on the Cardinals and the Marlins, who have spent a combined $3.5 million in free agency so far this year. They've signed one player total, Cal Quantrill. Marlins have spent that. Cardinals have spent nothing. But yeah, so it pains me to say it because I hate that the Dodgers are this good, but that team is just so loaded everywhere. I mean, their pitching rotation now is Shohei will be pitching at some point. Then you have Blake Snell, you have Rocky Sasaki, you have Yashi Yamamoto,
Walker
you
Buehler.
have Walker Buehler's on Boston.
Wait, what's the other guy's name then?
That's why from Tampa. Here, let me look up the roster real quick. Why am I blanking on his name? He's very,
They brought
very
back
good.
one of their pitchers from last year.
Well, they brought Tyler Glass now. Like that, those are 5 all-star level pitchers on one rotation. A couple of them are Cy Young level guys.
About bringing back Clayton Kershaw.
They did. They just re-signed him. Is he past his prime? Is he basically washed? Yeah, but does he still have some value in that veteran leadership? Definitely.
Not even just that, the fact that he doesn't have to shoulder the load. He's only going to have to fucking pitch once a week, if that. Like, realistically, he's
when people are injured and stuff. Yeah, no, that's a very good sixth guy. They bring in Hai-Sung Kim, Michael Conforto, brought back Teoscar Hernandez. It's like it's not fair. It's not fair, but because their owners like, I don't care, I just want to win. I'll spend whatever it takes. You got to call them a winner because they are putting their money in the right places. They're signing all-stars and just fielding an all-star team. So you can't blame them for being like, well, there's no salary cap. Let's go and buy everything. You can blame the MLB for allowing it to happen, for not having a salary cap. But you can't blame the Dodgers. So because of that, they are big winners. As I toss over to you for your second and final winner of free agency.
Yeah, I think this one's a little bit of a wild card for a lot of people, but I really think that this team did great, and that's the Chicago Cubs. Realistically, getting Kyle Tucker in the trade from Houston, obviously that's super big. Not trade, but like just getting Kyle Tucker from Houston is very important. You get Eli Morgan via trade. That's the one that's an actual trade. You know, obviously bringing in Matt Boyd as well. Those are all very big things for me. And the thing is, a lot of people were nervous that the Cubs weren't going to be able to compete with some of these other teams like the Mets, like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, so many other teams. But they went out and they got a solid roster via this free agency period. They still have a lot of money that they can spend here. There's still a lot of different things they can do. But realistically, they got rid of Bellinger, which is I very much so think that's a good idea. I think they just have to go out and get a starting pitcher, and I think this would be the pretty much chef's kiss on what has been a very solid offseason for this Chicago Cubs team. Not a lot of people saw them competing and they're out here making some good moves.
Yeah, no, I think the Cubs had a really good offseason, not having to give up much to get Kyle Tucker, who's probably a top 10 player in baseball, and off, and then subsequently getting off the Cody Bellinger contract to be able to afford Kyle Tucker to basically replace Cody Bellinger, who's not a bad player. I think he's got some values, decent. But to replace him with someone of Kyle Tucker's
caliber.
Yeah, it's definitely a big upgrade. So I agree with you there. My other winner, it pains me to say this, I really, really dislike this team because of the rivalry. They're my least favorite team in the league. I just have to. That way, even though I also equally almost hate the Astros as much. But I'm going to go with the Boston Red Sox. Their big weakness last year was pitching. Their pitching was not good. Their bullpen was pretty bad, and their starters were very inconsistent and just not very deep. They had a couple of good starters, but the back end of that rotation was bad. So what do? They go out and trade for Garrett Crochet, and they go out and sign what's his name? I just had it, and Walker Buehler. I just said earlier. Garrett Crochet, who went on with the White Sox last year, was throwing out Cy Young level stuff on the worst team of all time. You give him a competent team around him, he could absolutely be electric next year. He could definitely be a Cy Young candidate. And they didn't have to overpay. They have a really good prospect system. They didn't have to give up their top guys. They had to give up some good guys, but nothing crazy. And then Walker Buehler is a perfect fifth or sixth guy. He hasn't been pitching a lot lately because of injuries, similar to a Curtin Clayshaw. You don't have to have him shoulder the load. You can maybe use him as a long reliever. You can use him as that, someone's injured for a start, let's have him fill in, or we have to put someone on the IL. Now he's our fifth guy, and it's you're not really losing much of a step. Or maybe someone just isn't pitching very well, and you want them out of the rotation, you put Buehler in. There's a lot more flexibility. That pitching staff's very deep. The relief pitching still isn't great. I think that's what really could kill them from having real championship contender status. But they did bring in someone like Liam Hendricks, who Shout out to him for what he went through with beating cancer and everything. Last year, obviously, wasn't very good. Was on the White Sox, worst team of all time. But you're kind of hoping that maybe he can get back to form to how he was the few years prior when he was one of the best closers in baseball. So you throw a flyer at him. If he's good, cool. If not, then whatever. It's not like you paid too much for him. And then, obviously, go out and sign Alex Bregman. As a Yankees fan, I didn't really want Bregman because I thought he was just going to ask for too much money. And while I think 3 years, 120 is pretty rich, the fact that it was only over 3 years instead of a 6-year contract, I think makes this deal a lot better because he was getting worse the last couple of years in Houston as he's getting up there in age. But I still think he can bring some value over what they were going to have at second base. I think he's definitely an upgrade over what they had. And for it to only be a 3-year, yes, that's a lot of money, but you have to pay someone. They're not really paying a lot of people. So you kind of have that money to work with. And I really like that move for them because it's only 3 years. I still think he's a valuable piece. He's not going to have to be relied upon as one of their best hitters as they have. Rafael Devers, one of the best pure hitters in baseball, and Jarren Duran broke out. Someone like Roman Anthony, who's the top prospect in baseball, maybe he can come up and take a step. Like that lineup outside of catcher is looking very, very scary right now. And then with a very deep starting pitching, I think they're going to be the second best team in the AL East next year. I think they leapfrogged Baltimore for that. As I bring it into now that we're done with the winners into the losers, this is just a perfect transition. So I'm going to talk about my first loser of the MLB free agency, and that is the Baltimore Orioles. You lose Anthony Santander and Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns, Cy Young level guy, elite stuff. Anthony Santander just had 40 home runs, and you replace it with Charlie Morton and Tyler O'Neill. That's your replacement. And it's not like you replaced it with those guys, but then went and spent big money elsewhere to get another big fish. Those were the two best guys you brought in to replace your two best free agents. Like clear downgrades. They're basically banking on their young guys taking a step, which with how deep their farm system is, with how young they are, they could. I mean, maybe Jackson Holiday takes that step and becomes that stud we all expect him to be. Maybe Gunnar Henderson doesn't slow down the second half of the year and turns into plays how he did in the first half all year. Maybe Adley Rutschman gets back on track after he kind of struggled last year. Maybe Jordan Westburg or Ryan Mountcastle plays better, or some of the guys they call up. Colton Cowser continues. Yeah. Tyler O'Neill isn't a bad player. Like, I'm not saying they're a bad team.
They're just not as good as they were.
They had 89 wins last year and then lost their ace pitcher, replace him with a 9-year-old Charlie Morton, and then one of their better hitters, and replace him with Tyler O'Neill, who's good, but he's not very consistent throughout his career. He's had some good seasons. He's had some really bad seasons. He's just not a very consistent guy. So not very great out of them. I get that, like, they're getting back Felix Bautista, and that should really help out. That bullpen should be a lot better. Another bullpen was dealing with a lot of injuries, but that starting pitching leaves a lot to be desired. It's what Grayson Rodriguez, Drew Kemmer, Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton, Kyle Bradish. Like that's kind of gross.
Yeah, like very gross.
Grayson Rodriguez is the only guy in that rotation I trust, and even him is like
he's young,
decent. He's young and he develops, but he's been on 2 years. Last year at a 3.86, which is good. But if that's your number one pitcher, even if he takes a step to like a 3.5 guy, if 3.5 guy is your number one pitcher, that's not very good. Like they're gonna have,
especially when you get to playoff baseball. If you somehow survive the regular season.
Like, I think they could still make it into the playoffs as like another wild card because I think the AL is pretty weak. Like the AL West is very weak.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. Maybe Seattle, maybe their offense takes a step forward. Maybe Texas returns to form 2 years ago, and then Houston finds a way to stay competitive. But even then, Houston lost a lot. Like the AL West in general, and then the AL Central is just so inconsistent. You expect KC and Detroit to continue to get better, but like it's not like they went and made like big splashy moves. I thought Detroit had a good offseason. I thought KC made some good moves, but like they're kind of in a similar position as Baltimore. They're banking on all the young guys to continue to improve. And then Cleveland, they just refused to pay anyone. So they traded away one of their best hitters in Josh Naylor. And like, so like you never know how good they're going to be. And then Chicago's obviously terrible. So like, I could see Baltimore still probably in that second tier of teams in the AL East. Like, no bias aside, I think the Yankees are like the clear AL favorite right now. Like I genuinely don't see anyone like that close to them. I could talk myself into Boston being the second best team in the entire AL. Just I don't think they're better than the Yankees. Like what? There was only 2 teams in the AL last year that had over 90 wins. The Yankees and the Guardians, and the Guardians are always very inconsistent due to the fact that they're trading away their best players, so they don't have to pay them. And then the third best team was Baltimore. They lost their 2 best players. Houston just lost one of its best players, and they're getting a lot of their stars are getting up there.
Too much better.
And yeah, Kansas City and Detroit, they were good, but they're kind of relying on a lot of elite pitching, which is not as consistent as elite hitting. Pitching doesn't always turn over as much year to year, especially Detroit, which was using a lot of relief pitching games and stuff like that, which can help you win a lot of playoff baseball strategy the final month of the season to squeak into the playoffs. And it worked, but it's not a consistent thing you can rely on throughout an entire season. So the AL is just not very good. So I could still see, as I've already said, I could still see Baltimore getting into a wild card spot, but I think if they retain Corbin Burnes and they retain Anthony Santander, and then they go out and get maybe another starting pitcher, they go out and get another piece while retaining their guys, I think they could be right there battling with New York and Boston for that AL East title. But instead, I think they're a clear third team now. And I just do not like their offseason.
Yeah, no, fair.
As I kick it over to you for your first loser.
It's very similar to yours. The team that was once regarded as a better team, they just lost a lot, and that's the San Diego Padres, man. You lose Ha-Seong Kim, you lose Jurickson Profar. Dylan Cease is still a potential guy you could trade away. And obviously, we just talked about Corbin Burnes leaving the Orioles. He went to a division rival in the Diamondbacks. And when you got a division rival like the Diamondbacks, who barely missed the playoffs last year by
due to their terrible pitching,
by 1 game, they go out and get the best fucking pitcher on the market, and all of a sudden, now you have them to deal with. You have the Dodgers, the Mets went out and got better. You can't put the Padres in those conversations anymore. While they still have a lot of talent, they still have a lot of different stuff on that roster. They have good players. It's just you can't compete in a conference as loaded as the NL right now because there's so many good teams. There's just so many things. And while your division rivals are getting better, you're not going to win that division with the Dodgers in it already. That you can pencil that out more than likely.
Oh, they're not. No shot. The Dodgers are the freest lock to win their division in the.
Oh yeah, and then the Dodgers being basic locks to win the division before the season starts. The Diamondbacks are going to take a wild card spot. Whether the Phillies, Braves, or Mets wins the division, the other 2 could easily get the last 2 spots. And then the Cubs went out and got better. If the Cubs don't win their division, they could be a wild card over the Brewers, and the Brewers are always going to be solid too. And
exactly.
So it's just there's 8 or 9 different teams you can throw into the conversation there. And unfortunately for the Padres, just not getting better. It's not a way to climb the ladder. So unfortunately for them, they're going to have to fall down a little bit in my rankings. I just think it was a bad offseason. When everyone else goes out and get better around you and you do absolutely nothing, that's the first thing that you should be concerned about, because we see it all the time with other sports. We see it with the fucking Buffalo Sabres all the time. Watching everybody else around us go out and get better, and we just sit there and say, we'll take a Jason Zucker. We'll take a Taylor Hall.
Hey, don't hate on Jason Zucker. I get the Taylor Hall one, but Jason Zucker's been really good. So
we'll go out there and sign Michael Neuvern.
Yeah, no.
Noah Senroth and Michael Neuvern is our goaltender tandem. Yeah, that's fucking elite right there.
Oh, don't remind me of those days. The Robin Leonard days.
Oh, God, dude. He came out of nowhere and saved us. Oh, my gosh.
Except for in a shootout. I don't think he ever saved a shot in a shootout.
Yeah, no. He was the worst.
I probably could have scored on him. All I would have to do was deke to one side, and he would have flown over there like he was on a plane.
Yeah, literally. Either way, though, that's my first team that I think you can go ahead and say your second team now.
All right, so I'm going to go with the team that has spent zero. I've spent as much money as this team in free agency so far this year. $0 is how much the St. Louis Cardinals have spent. They were they weren't too far out of a playoff spot last year. They were
6
games out. They were 83 and 79, which isn't it's not like 1 or 2 games, but it's not that far off, especially with how much
The fact
turnover.
you were a winning record team and you're
Yeah,
just like
with how much
stagnant.
turnover there is in baseball, you're in one of the worst divisions in baseball in the Central because like the Brewers are competitive, but they don't have a lot of star power. They just traded away Devin Williams. Like
Yeah,
they're
just
not a
lost
bad
Kevin.
team, but like, and they also lost what's his face, their top shortstop to the Giants.
Yeah, Willie Adames.
Yeah, they lost their best hitter, so like they're probably going to be competitive, but it's not like they're like a Dodgers or a Yankees or a Mets or something. And then the Cubs have gotten better, but still they have their problems. They're not this elite team. And then you have the Reds and the Pirates, which are young teams that might take steps, but like you could have easily went out and got a guy or two, and then you could be competitive for that division. Instead, they're like they said they were going to go out and sign, and then they've signed no one. And then they let one of their best hitters go in Paul Goldschmidt, which I get because of his age. But then your other old aging like cornerstone guy, Nolan Arenado, you've been trying to trade all offseason to unload his contract, and you can't even do that. They've done nothing right, and they're gonna probably be like a 70-win team next year. I get they haven't lost like a lot, but they just don't have a lot to look forward to. I was looking at the roster. Their best pitchers are Sonny Gray, Steven Matz, and Miles Michaelis. That's their best starters. Obviously, they have Ryan Presley, which there's talks. Maybe they're trying to trade him, which at this point, you might as well. There's no reason to have an elite closer or a good closer when your team sucks. Oh, my nose is so itchy. But either way, like this team is just doesn't have much to inspire. I mean, I guess Wilson Contreras, Mason Wynn, Lars Nootbaar, Jordan Walker, maybe you hope that takes a step, but like, yeah, I think they're a clear loser in this free agency. As we bring it over to you for your final loser of free agency.
Yeah, that's the Toronto Blue Jays, man. They're in a very similar spot to the Padres, where they just didn't really go out and do too much. But the difference is the Padres actually have some players. The Blue Jays really didn't have anybody. Obviously, we mentioned, outside of Vlad, they have like nothing. And so they go out and they get Anthony Santander, and I like that addition. Good move for the Bats, but you don't tender Romano. And now here we are looking at the pitching, and you're just like, who's it going to be? Like, who's going to be the starting guy? Like, there's a lot of question marks with that pitching. I just don't think they're going to have a deep rotation. They haven't been aggressive in free agency as much as I thought they would. Like, yes, they've been in talks for Juan Soto. They were in talks for Corbin Burns. They were in talks for all the other pitchers and all the other players. I don't care. Those don't get hung up in the rafters at the end of the day. What does are the championships. It's not, we almost won the Juan Soto sweepstakes.
They almost won the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes last year.
Yeah, no one cares.
Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Exactly. No one cares what you almost do. They care what you go out and do. And the final product of this free agency is underwhelming, to say the least. Everyone deemed them as one of the most versatile teams for the offseason. They could go in any direction they wanted to. They could have done this. They could have done that. And you know what their guy says? Oh, I can go left or right. I'm going to turn around and walk 10 miles backwards because that's what we like around here. And so it's just, you have clear options. You have different options he could have went for, and they just chose not to do it. Unfortunately for the Blue Jays, that's not going to make you a better team. You're probably going to fall in the last place spot of the AL division of the East, at least. It's just
them and the Rays.
Yeah, them and the Rays, it's one of them. You know, it may be the Rays, considering they did go out and get Santander, and they still have Vlad, but who really knows at this point with this team? Very underwhelming offseason for all the possibilities it could have been. I think this is the absolute worst it could have been. I think 9 times out of 10, the offseason would have went better than it did. And this is the 10th out of 10th time where it just went bad.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, bring in Santander is a good piece, but like considering you wanted to get all of the, and like Max Scherzer could be like a decent piece, but Max Scherzer and their consolation prizes compared to Teoscar Hernandez or Juan Soto or Blake Snell or Max Fried, all of these top tier guys, and you go and get those guys, which aren't bad players, but yeah, no, and especially when they're trying to make a pitch to Vladdy, please stay here, we want you. If you're not surrounding him with talent, it doesn't matter how much money you offer him. The Dodgers could just offer you more. The Mets can just offer you more. The Yankees can just offer you more or the same, but they're actually winning teams. So it's like, no, I get that. And that is all we have for MLB. I'm excited for this MLB season. As always, I look forward to the season, and then usually by week 1, I'm already pissed off because the Yankees have lost some stupid game by some blown bullpen. You understand as a Mets fan that it probably won't take you long for you to get mad at your Mets. It's a long season, but it's like, how do we lose? It'll be how do we lose that game? It's like, not again. But yeah, I'm excited to be able to be in that feeling again. But anyways, we move over to another sport that we both are very passionate in. We both very like a lot. The NHL, as it is Four Nations Classic, the first time there's been NHL players in international play since 2016. It kicked off last night with Canada with a 4-3 win over Sweden. What a game. What a way to kick off international play for the first time in 9 years, as the fans and the players have been clamoring for it forever, and so glad that it's back. We'll talk about that game. We'll talk about our predictions for how we think the rest of this mini tournament plays out. But yeah, 4-3. Canada starts the game off hot as they score a goal a minute in, 2 goals in the first. Sweden battles back. Canada goes up 3-1 at the end of the second, and then in the third, Adrian Kempe makes it 3-2, and then Joel Eriksson ties it up with about 10 minutes left. And then in overtime, with about 4 minutes left in their 10-minute overtime period, Mitch Marner buries one home. Shout out to Sidney Crosby, 3 primary assists at 36 years old. He's probably the best player in Team Canada, and he's 36 years old. They've won their last 26 games with Canada's won their last 26 games with Sidney Crosby in international play. That's extremely impressive. So that's pretty cool to see someone like Sid continuing to battle. One of the bigger storylines, especially if you're a Sabres fan, is how little the Swedes used Rasmus Dahlin. He had the second lowest ice time out of all defensemen, and it was only 2 seconds more than Jonas Brodin, as Brodin had 17 minutes and 15 seconds, or 13 seconds, and Dahlin 17 minutes and 15 seconds. If you want to discuss that, I have some words to say about that. But do you have anything to say about like Dahlin not playing a lot and being like a third line defenseman?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, especially with him being one of the main guys for that defense. He's probably, in my opinion, the second best, if not the best defenseman on Team Sweden. I mean, Victor Hedman, man. You saw Sidney Crosby turn the clock back for this game at his advanced age. I think Victor Hedman showed the same thing for them. I think that he's just an established defenseman, works in the D zone. I really think that it's 1-2 between Hedman and Dahlin, and the fact that Brodin was out there. Brodin got more chances with the puck than Dahlin did. He scored a goal in this game, Brodin did. So just the fact that Dahlin didn't really do much, and still I think it speaks volumes because Dahlin saved a goal in this game. Saved a goal that was bouncing towards the net. He threw that puck back out to the center of the ice. Great play by him. And then he absolutely wrecked Connor McDavid's shit in the defensive zone. Just threw him backwards. And you could see the pissed off look on his face as he threw him to the ice backwards. Absolute unit of a man in Rasmus Dahlin. And I think that he's kind of like giving me the vibes of like a guy from the AHL coming up to play their first NHL game. Those were the kind of vibes. I think Dahlin was out there to prove something in this game, because he realized that he was a third-line D pair. He realized he wasn't going to get the starting minutes. He realized he didn't get that much time. And because of that, I think he went out there and he showed his physical side. He showed that he can play very good defense by keeping that puck out of the net. Very steady hands, very good, smart player in this game. And I think in the ice time he was out there, Team Sweden was a better team while he was on the ice. And because of that, I think that he might get advanced minutes in the next game. It's just a matter of if. It's a matter of when, not if, he gets more minutes. I just don't know what's up with Team Sweden in the first place to not give him those minutes from the start.
Yeah, this is karma, Sweden, for losing this game. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I will go right out and say it. Rasmus Dahlin is the best player on this team. I genuinely think he is the clear number one player. I think it's who?
Maybe Pettersson.
Maybe
Pettersson.
I'm taking Dahlin over Pettersson. Dahlin,
it's iffy because they both play different positions, so it's just like it's super iffy.
Well, I think Dahlin's a top 5 defenseman in the league. I think you can make an argument all the way up to 3 for him. I would still give the edge to Adam Fox, but with how good Dahlin's been this year, there's a legitimate argument. The Sabres this year, I know it's the Sabres different. They're like, what, 0-8-2 when Dahlin doesn't play this year? You take those off, maybe you turn that into a 500 record. We're battling for a playoff spot. we're basically a playoff team with Rasmus Dahlin, and we are the worst team in the league without him. Like the value, I get there's other reasons for that, aka our defense around him is not very good. But the fact that we can make that much of a jump based on one player just shows how elite he is. And he is elite on both sides of the puck. Even Matthias Ekholm said that he is one of the best offensive defensemen in the game. He's basically like a forward out there, and Ekholm like envies Dahlin's offensive ability and wishes he had that. It was one of his own Sweden teammates saying that. And not only that, as you showed in this game, he stopped that goal. He had a beautiful poke check on McDavid when McDavid was leading a rush down the left side of the ice. He laid out McDavid. Like he showed that he's not just this offensive guy. He can lay some hits. He can play some defense. He plays both sides of the ice better than anyone on this team. And the fact that you don't even give him a single second in overtime, you're just rotating Victor Hedman and Gustav Forsling, which even if you want to argue that those guys are equals to Dahlin, why isn't Dahlin getting it? Why are you tiring those two out when you have someone like Dahlin sitting on your bench? It's like, yeah, that's what happens when you don't give your, in my opinion, best player that much ice time. You're going to lose, especially against a team loaded like Canada. Like, I get maybe if Dahlin played more, maybe they still lose because Canada is just that loaded. I mean, a first power play of McKinnon, Crosby, McDavid, Makar, and Marner. The McKinnon, McDavid, and Crosby line, for people who aren't as big into hockey, it's like if LeBron, Jokic, and Giannis teamed up in international play and decided to go give a run at it. Like, that's basically what that equivalency is if you had to face those three guys in one line at a time, it's basically unstoppable. So the fact that Sweden was able to send this game to overtime, I think shout out to them. But I'm also a little scared for Canada because what was their weakness going into the tournament? Defensive depth and goaltending. Yeah, that's kind of like the big things that really affected them. Because the fact is they didn't bring their two best goalies. Canada's two best goalies probably right now, at least playing the best right now, Logan Thompson, Darcy Kemper. Instead, you bring Jordan Binnington and Nate Hill. And then the defense core, Cale Makar is best or second best defenseman in hockey. You can make an argument between Quinn Hughes and him. I guess I'd probably give the edge to Makar because he's established it more in the playoffs. But then outside of that, it's like Drew Doughty's good, but he's past the prime. Josh Morrissey is a stud. But then Shea Theodore, Devin Taves, they're good players. Yeah, they're good defensemen, but they're not great. It's not like USA per se that even without Quinn Hughes, they still have Adam Fox, Charlie McAvoy. I'm forgetting the one other complete stud they have. Like, they're much deeper, and I think that is what's going to ultimately kill Canada in this tournament. Because I mean, the forward core is just disgusting. You're having someone like Brandon Hagel play on your fourth line. Brad Marchand and like Brandon Hagel and like Braden Point is your fourth line is disgusting. But the lack of defense depth and the lack of goaltenders, I think, is what's going to kill them, because that's what brought Sweden back. They're able to score a couple goals, but in overtime, if you don't play your best player, it's going to be hard to get an upset against a team this good. So that's what I have for that game. As we move into tonight's game, we'll talk about that, and then we'll give our just predictions for the rest of the tournament. USA takes on Finland tonight at 8:00. USA is a heavy favorite, probably because Finland has Henri Jokiharju. Any team that's starting him in a competitive international game is just in a disadvantage because he sucks. Yeah. I just wanted to get a dig at Jokiharju because I hate him. But I guess I'll give the floor to you if you want to talk about this game first.
Well, I think that Finland's a good team, and no discredit to them, but they're probably going to get blown out in this game. This is the first game in 9 years the Team USA is playing this kind of hockey with this kind of lineup. Absolute fucking unit on both offense and defense, even goaltending. It's unstoppable for this Team USA team. I think they're the clear favorites right now in the entire tournament. I think Canada showed how they can get beaten by Team Sweden, and Team Sweden's offense doesn't hold a goddamn candle to what Team USA has. So the fact that they lose Shea Theodore in that game, he's out for the rest of the tournament with a wrist injury. Jordan Binnington is Jordan fucking Binnington. He's not going to be that great. Showed it in this game. He had 3 goals against on 19 shots. He made a hell of a save in the overtime, though, so that is all credit to him on that. But just still, nonetheless, unfortunate circumstances for Finland getting a tough draw against U.S. to start this one. I do think that this is a really intriguing game, especially since obviously the World Junior Cup final was against Finland in the United States. So maybe a little bit of a chance for Finland to come back and, get their revenge, but I doubt that happens in this one. Team USA is way too deep. I think Team USA wins this game tonight, and unfortunately for Team Finland, they're going to have a rough start to this tournament.
Yeah, I could see Finland getting maybe 2 goals, because they do have some very good offensive players. Obviously, Alexander Barkov, Sebastian Aho, Roope Hintz, Patrick Laine are all pretty good. Mikko Rantanen. I'm not sure if Rantanen's still injured or whatever, but those are some elite offensive players you got there. The problem is with Miro Heiskanen going down, your defense core is awful. It's awful. You got Esa Lindell, Rasmus Ristolainen, Esa, Henry Okihari, and I can't even pronounce some of these other guys, but very, very bad. But they also have UC Saros, who I still think, despite having kind of a down year in Nashville, I think that's more so the team around him than him.
I think he's the best goalie in the tournament.
I'd give it. I think Hellebuck. He's about to win back-to-back Vezina, so I think Helly's the best goalie in the tournament.
It just depends.
But I'd put Saros number 2.
Sweden.
Yeah,
I can't believe Gustafsson's the starter.
Gustafsson. Gustafsson's probably the 4th best goalie in the tournament. I think it goes.
I think Gustafsson's had a better season than Bennington, though.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not saying compared to Bennington. I'm saying compared to Jake Ottinger.
Oh, well, I'm just saying
the starter's third best starter. Yes, 3rd best starter, but I think 4th best overall goalie in this tournament, which is crazy how good US is.
Maybe even 5th, realistically.
Yeah. For Bennington, yeah. But yeah, I mean, because UC Saros, I think he might be able to make this game close if he just stands on his head, which is definitely possible. But I think either way, I think that forward core of the United States, which isn't Canada level disgusting, but it's pretty darn close, even with them snubbing guys like Tage Thompson and Cole Caulfield for freaking Chris Kreider and Vincent Trocheck, who I did the math. Vincent Trocheck and Chris Kreider have a combined 9 more points than just Tage Thompson alone this year. Yeah. And Tage missed 7 or 8 games. If Tage was fully healthy this year, he'd probably have about equal as many points and about equal as many goals as them two combined. You give them the nod. Disgusting. Also, yes, I bring up Tage the most because I'm a Sabres fan, and I really, really, really wanted to buy a Tage Thompson Team USA jersey. I wanted that so badly. But anyways, not only was Tage robbed, I think Cole Caulfield and Jason Robertson were also robbed, which could hurt. Which I think could also hurt Team USA is that their 3rd and 4th lines kind of lacking a little bit offensively. They're kind of going for the grittier defensive guys, which could hurt them against a Team Canada. They might just not have the talent. But the top 6, Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, the Tkachuk brothers, Jack Hughes. That is pretty dirty. So I'm gonna give US a 4-2 victory in this game. I think that's pretty fair.
I think USA wins 4-1.
Okay, that's fair.
Hellebuck's just so good, man. And honestly, everything has to go right for Finland in this game. They have 4, maybe 5 good superstar level players, and then outside of that, their bottom 6 is really not that great at goal scoring. So
and their defense,
we're gonna rely a lot upon them. And then the defense, as bad as they are, I could see Team USA out fucking just possessing the puck for 90% of this goddamn game. So
I could see a 4-2, but Team USA outshoots them 40-20 or something like that.
Exactly.
I think Saros is gonna come out with something to prove. Because he's had kind of a rough year in Nashville and he's just going to stand on his head. But then weird scheduling, in my opinion. Weird how they have no games tomorrow night. Because tomorrow night, there's nothing going on in sports besides the Celebrity All-Star game. So I think that's weird that you have 2 games on Saturday but none tomorrow. But anyways, Saturday, Finland and Sweden play at 1, and then the game that everyone's waiting for at 8:00. USA takes on Canada, the 2 best hockey countries in the world, maybe Russia, but they're not in this tournament for other reasons. But USA and Canada are probably the 2 best hockey countries in the world. Obviously Canada is hockey, but USA is really on the up and coming. So there's just so much star power on each side. I'm going to be making sure I'm watching that game. And then Monday, Canada takes on Finland and Sweden takes on USA. And then Thursday is the championship. Basically what they're doing the 3-2-1-0 system for scoring, which I think the NHL should adopt. It's 3 points for a regulation win, 2 points for an overtime or shootout win, 1 point for an overtime or shootout loss, and then 0 points for a regulation loss. So it puts more value on winning in regulation. But I'm going to pass it over to you. Who are the two teams? I guess, how do you think the standings play out, and who do you think are the two teams that face the championship, and who do you think wins?
Ooh, I'm going to have to say USA and Canada. They're just the two best teams in the tournament. And Sweden, yes, they gave them a run for their money, but how many times are you really going to be able to be outshot where in that first period alone, with 4 minutes left, I took a photo of this because of absolute domination. It was 2-0 at the time, and Team Canada still hadn't given up a shot with 4 minutes left in this first period. That's just ridiculous.
The final shots actually end up being pretty close, though. It looks like Sweden kind of dominated the second and third.
Sweden dominated this late second period and then the third period at the beginning. And so because of that, I just think that Team Sweden kind of got lucky that Canada didn't do more with the offensive domination in the first period. And I think that's just a lot to do with the rust of a team like Sweden, of Canada. That was the first game of the tournament. Obviously, these guys haven't played together like ever, so there's a lot of problems with these guys. And so realistically, it just makes for a lot of crazy stuff. Although Team Canada gets the win in the end, Team Sweden, your best chance to beat Canada was right in front of you. All you had to do was win that overtime. And that was your best chance because realistically, you were never going to win after that. And so unfortunately for them, I think Sweden will end up being the third best team in this tournament. I really just don't like Finland. I don't think they're going to be that great of a roster.
Without Heiskanen and their defense just can't hold up.
Exactly. And then on top of that, I do think Canada and USA will play in the final. I just think that USA is a little bit better in goaltending and defense because of Shea Theodore's injury. So go ahead and give me Team USA to get this one done in the four-nation face-off. Not because I'm an American, or because I'm stupid, but
I'm rooting for America either way. But yeah,
I mean, I'm rooting for realistically all. I don't care what team wins because these are the top 4 countries in the world for hockey. I'm excited to watch hockey. I'm an American. I would love to see America win.
Boo!
I'd love to see America win.
Unpatriotic. Boo! Boo!
I'd love to see
America on top.
I'd love to see America win. I'd like to see Finland win because they have a couple of Sabres on their team, even though they're not great like Sabres. They're Sabres. And then Team Sweden, obviously. My Swedish descent, so like realistically, Sweden would be the second best team in this tournament for me, cool. Based off rooting percentages wise. Based off of like just my roots, I guess I would just.
Do you like Swedish fish a lot?
Okay, dude. Yeah. And then Canada is probably third on my list overall of like who I'd want to win. But I do like Canada's roster. There's a lot of fun players on that team. There's a lot of guys I really like. So realistically, I wouldn't really hate it if Canada wins either. But that's just my thought process on this whole tournament.
Yeah, so I'll go with my rooting interest and then what I think is going to happen. America on top, definitely rooting for them because I'm an American and I want to see players around succeed. But I wouldn't be totally upset if they lost, but only if they lose because their fourth line gives up an atrocious goal. And then I can look and be like, oh, screw you guys. Tage Thompson, that would be kind of funny to see. It would be like a play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Again, I say that a lot, but I strongly believe it
applies to a lot of things.
Yes, it like the USA selection committee. I'm a little worried that they're trying to pull like how Canada just lost the World Juniors based on they were doing that. They left off some of their better players to try and get some gritty bottom sixers. I'm afraid that could hurt USA just because
like it hurt Canada.
Like it hurt Canada in the World Juniors. I don't think it's going to hurt them to that level.
The fact they lost to Czechia is crazy.
I think USA is still the clear top 2 team in this. But anyways, I'm rooting for USA. Then I'm rooting for Sweden because of Dahlin. Then I'm rooting for Finland. Don't really care. UPL is not going to play at all, and Henri Jokiharju sucks. I'm just rooting for them third because I hate Canada. Screw you, Canada. They're one of my least favorite countries because I just don't like Canada. I don't know. Screw Canada. Also, they like to act like, oh, we're a hockey country. Hockey's our sport. Well, we're about to beat you at your own damn gosh darn game because USA is winning this entire thing. USA is winning it all. I don't care. I just think that if you look at it, forwards, edge to Canada. But it's close. They're definitely deeper. They're much deeper. But like the top 6 to 9 are pretty close. It's just that. But yeah, Canada edge.
That fourth line, they wipe us though.
Yeah, that's what I'm scared about is that like Braden Point, Hagel, and Marchand just have like a combined for 2 or 3 goals in the playoffs because our fourth line sucks. Screw you for picking those guys over the guys I mentioned. But anyways, forwards close, defensemen with Quinn Hughes, Quinn Hughes. We kind of wiped the floor with them. Yes, not the Texas quarterback. With Quinn Hughes, we kind of wiped the floor with them defensively because
then we beat him on defense with Jalen Milroe too, man.
But like, because Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar are about even, but then after that, it's like Adam Fox is their second and Charlie McAvoy. It's like not really fair. But because with that,
then we got Ashton Genty in net, bro. It's just it's unstoppable.
Yeah, exactly. DJ Lagway is one of our forwards.
Yeah, right. He got snubbed.
Yes, because there is no Quinn Hughes. I think it's about even.
Right.
It's close both ways, but where there's the big discrepancy and what a lot of people say is the most valuable position in hockey outside of maybe like that superstar center, which both teams have, is goalie. And we wipe the floor with them.
I honestly thought Connor Hellebuck was from Canada until 1 year ago.
Where is he from, though?
He's from the United States.
Well, really? Wow, I had no idea.
I think he's from, I think it's like Maine or something. Hold on. I'll look this up.
Thanks for that. Wow, someone playing on Team USA was born in the USA.
Okay. It is. Oh, he's from Michigan. Sorry, I thought it was Maine.
Nah, it makes sense.
From Michigan, Commerce Township.
No Anyways, Jordan Bennington might not even.
You can't even talk, bro. Quinn Ewers is crazy.
I said like Hewers. Like I combined Ewers and Hughes combined. I basically just added an R to Hughes. So like it's. Anyways. Yeah. Jordan Bennington might not even be a top 5 goalie in this tournament, and Connor Hellebuck is about to win back-to-back Vezinas and is in the race to win the Hart this year. He is on one. I'm not saying he should win it. I'm just saying he is in the race, which for a goalie being in the Hart race is just elite in itself. Yeah, is ridiculous in itself. So because of that, I'm going to give the edge to USA. And then I think you're right. Sweden does take third, and then I think Finland's fourth because that defense score is just so awful.
Fair.
As we now move into our third sport we're going to talk about, after tonight's games, the NBA All-Star break is in effect, so they're a little past the halfway mark. We talked about the trade deadline last week, so now we want to just talk about like the season that has happened so far. We're going to each give one team that we thought has like overperformed, exceeded our expectations, one team that's underperformed, kind of like failed their expectations, and then one player the same way. For both like underperform and overperform. And then we're going to give our conference finals and finals prediction updates. I'll start with you though. What is the team that you think is it far exceeded your expectations?
Well, that's easy, man. It's in the West, and that's the Houston Rockets. They're just insane. 34-20 record. They've had a very good year. Jalen Green is balling out. This team's just been phenomenal. They're finally finding their groove. Alperen Sengun's been great, obviously named to the All-Star team. I just think that it's been a hell of a year for them. They're finally getting some results out of their draft picks, and that's exactly what they really can hope for. They have a lot of picks moving ahead as well, very similar to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think they could be one of the top 2 teams in the conference within the next 5 years. I think it could be the Thunder and them, 1 and 2. But finally getting back after everything with James Harden goes south, and just seeing the Rockets at the back competing for the conference, competing where they are right now. They're just a very good team right now. And they're only a couple games back of the Nuggets, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly. And then even Memphis is another team that you could talk about that's exceeded expectations, with the Memphis Grizzlies also having a good season. But the Rockets are right behind both of them in the standings, and they could easily be the number 2 team in the conference if they can find their groove after this All-Star break. So I'm going to go ahead and say them.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Detroit Pistons. They
Yeah,
were either the worst or the second worst team in basketball last year. I mean, at one point, they lost like 27 straight or whatever. Then Kuzma made
yeah, it
the
was like
joke.
the most in
Yeah, and then
history.
Kuzma made the joke about we don't want to be that team to lose to them. But then the Wizards ended up being basically as bad. And then not only that, it's a weak draft class, but then you lose the lottery, so you go to the 5th pick, so you don't even get the player you like the most out of this weak draft class. So as a Pistons fan, you're like, wow, we were just that bad. Everything's going wrong. We can't even get a top pick in a weak class. We were this bad, and we're going to end up with the 5th pick in one of the weakest classes ever. Things are looking really south, and their big free agent acquisition is Tobias Harris or trade or whatever. It's like, you're a Pistons fan. Things are not looking good, but here they are, 29, 26. They're above the play, and they're the 6th seed, and they're only 2 games out of the 4 seed. Like, it's them, the Pistons. Milwaukee is like that kind of 4 through 6. So, like, I get the East is very weak, and that's part of it. If they were out in the West, who knows if they're even in a play-in spot. But they were also in the East last year when they were this awful. So, I mean, Cade Cunningham's taken that next step. He was an all-star this year, averaging 25, 6, and 9.5 with a steal and a block a game. I get he has turnover issues, but like he is still on the Pistons. So like Jaden Ivey took a step. He's injured, but he's averaging up to 17 a game. Malik Beasley's been like that perfect 6-man pure scorer, averaging 16.5 a game. Tobias Harris has been a good like 3-and-D wing guy, 13.5 a game. Jaren Duran's kind of taken a step as that center, averaging a 10 and 10 double-double with over a block a game. So, I mean, they're just they're Cade Cunningham's leading the charge, but then just a collective bunch of decent role players. Tim Hardaway Jr. is averaging 10 a game. Ashur Thompson's averaging 9 a game with elite defense. Like, they're just getting a lot of contributions from guys they weren't getting last year. The young guys are taking those steps. So if you're a Pistons fan, you're pretty happy. And it's not like you're paying a lot of guys. You're going to obviously give Cade his money, and then Tobias Harris money's coming off soon, but you're kind of looking like a more favorable destination for some of these free agents, and you still have picks from trading people away in previous years. You can kind of, these next 3 to 5 years, kind of go on that upward trajectory, build around Cade Cunningham, and you could maybe turn into at least a continuous playoff team, which is a huge upgrade for what they've been the last 15 years, where they've been at most like a first-round blowout exit. So I want to shout out the Pistons. I think they've really exceeded my expectations. I thought they're going to win like 30, 35 games, and they're already at 29 at the All-Star break. So shout out to them. As we then move into a more depressing side, who's been the most disappointing team to you this year?
That's Joel Embiid and his Sixers, man. 20 and 34. They've lost 5 straight games. Embiid can't stay healthy. Paul George has not looked the same. It's just what has gone right with this team. I mean, I guess you have what's his name there? The guard. I can't remember his name.
Tyrese Maxey.
There you go. Tyrese Maxey. Thank you. I don't know why I was blanking on him, but like he hasn't played that great. It's just interesting to me. There's a lot of different circumstances for this team being as bad as they are, but they're not even in the play-in, man. And I like the Bulls. They're my second favorite team in the NBA, and it's not because of MJ. It's just because of the logo. I'm a Bills fan and a Sabres fan, and there's no Buffalo team in basketball. Thanks, Clippers, dumbasses. But because of that, like I look at a team that's from New York and then the team with the closest logo that resembles a buffalo, and that's the Bulls and the New York Knicks. So it's how I got here. But anyway, I like the Bulls the second most in the NBA, and they are hot garbage, and they are in the play-in tournament. And that is insanely sad to me that they are in the play-in tournament over a team like the Sixers, who have Paul George, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey. That's just ridiculous to me that can even be a actual possibility, and it's realistic. But here we are. This is a disappointing season for a disappointing organization, a disappointing team, and the trust the process motto is now it's way too far gone at this point. Just blow it all up again at this point.
Yeah, their trust the process motto got them to losing in a Game 7. They're literally the height of the trust and process was them losing to Kawhi in that second round playoff series.
Yeah,
because if they won that, maybe they could have maybe
went on a run.
They took the Raptors the closest. And
I
then they
think
decided,
if I'm being honest, they might have made like it reminds me a lot of like when the Bills lost to the Chiefs in the 2021 divisional, where I think we would have beat the Bengals and moved on to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
a lot like that. But like, I mean, it's ticky tacky.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, they didn't win, so like But the turning point of this franchise was when you decided to pay Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, that worst decision in your life.
And then obviously Ben Simmons being Ben Simmons. But imagine right now, basically, you would have, because you were able to move off Ben Simmons to get James Harden. But then you would have had last year, you would have had Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, Jimmy Butler, and Joel Embiid. Like that is insane. Then you would have had no need to give Paul George this contract. And like you would just not be in the mess you are if you would have just signed Jimmy Butler over Tobias Harris. But they didn't. And so here they are. Hot garbage. Yeah. The most disappointing team for me right now is the Phoenix Suns. They started out the year pretty strong, but they have just been losing a lot of games. 26-28. Now they're not even in the play-in anymore. And that's what happens when you try and go with a super team. Now you try to build these 3 all-stars together and it just doesn't work out. But that's also because you built 3 of similar players, 3 ball dominant guys who don't play a lot of defense. Bradley Beal is basically falling off the face of the earth. That's an awful contract. Like Durant and Booker have been great. They've been doing their thing. They're averaging 27 and 26 respectively. But the problem is Beal's averaging inefficient 17. And then after that, it's like Tyus Jones, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal all averaging like 10, 11 points. And they have no defense. Like their defense is terrible. And they just don't really have much for center. So yeah, their interior defense is awful. They don't really have many great perimeter defenders outside of like Royce O'Neal. And it's Royce O'Neal. And they've just been very disappointing. I know they've been trying to make big moves and to try and make it back to the finals, and it's just not working out. You're probably losing KD this year. Maybe you try and find a way to move off Bradley Beal's contract. Doesn't look likely, but you're probably gonna have to attach a pick to it with Beal to like a team that's awful just for them to take that on. But he has no trade clause, so he can just be like, nah, I'm not gonna go there. So you're kind of stuck with that, but I really don't know the direction they're going to have to go in to fix that. But yeah, they've been very disappointing this year. Who would you say has been the most, like the player that has exceeded your expectations the most?
Exceeded?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say Tyler Hero, Miami. I mean, you lose Butler, yeah, but like he can step up, and I think that he's definitely a good piece, him and Bam. He's averaging like a little over 23 points per game right now. He's got like 5 assists, 6 rebounds on average. He's been very, very good for basically a second fiddle player behind Jimmy Butler all season. And I understand Butler's been, chaotic and dealing with like doing all these different things. Like I want to be traded, all these kinds of bullshits, but it's just still Tyler Hero's been the one consistent thing about this team all season, and it's been the one thing that they can count on going into the last little bit of this year. So I do have to say that Tyler Hero has exceeded my expectations the most. He's been solid, 46% from the floor. He's just doing everything right.
All right, yep. And I'm going to go with a kind of more of like a surprising one. I'm going to go with Amen Thompson of the Houston Rockets. Yes. This one pains me to say because I drafted him in fantasy at like pick 90. And then the first 2 weeks of the year, he was like god awful. He was terrible. So I'm like, oh, I guess he's not taking that step. I cut him. And then since then he's gone berserk. Like he went from averaging like 20 fantasy points. He's up to like almost 40 fantasy points now. Like he has just gone crazy. He is elite defensively. He's a guard that rebounds. He's still not a very efficient shooter. Like he's a bad 3-point shooter, only averaging 25% from 3, but it doesn't take a lot. He can still hit an occasional one. It's not like he's a center that can't hit anything. He's shooting like 54% from the field. He's averaging like up to like 14 a game with like 6 rebounds, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, very good defense, a couple of stocks a game. He is really taking that next step. When him and Usher drafted, they were both similar guys. They're kind of like do it all elite defensive guys, but the knack on them was that they struggled to create their own shot. They weren't great scorers. So the fact that he has improved this much offensively, he was averaging like 9 points per game, shooting 13% from 3 last year. Now he's up to like almost 14 a game, averaging or shooting 25%. Like he's improving his shooting, he's improving his scoring, while improving those other all-around things that he was like known to be good at. He has really taken that step. And so I'm going to go with him. I did not expect this going into the season. I did not expect it, especially after I cut him for being so bad. And of course, it just came back to bite me. Thank God my team's still really good, but it would have been really nice to have someone like that. But yeah, I'm going to go with Amen Thompson. He's been lighting it up recently. He's been so good. And I did not expect this at all. as we move into who has been the most disappointing player for you this year.
Honestly, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I really think about this a lot. But my one friend, he plays fantasy basketball from back home, and his name is John, and he is beyond miserable right now because he drafted Tyrese Halliburton with his first round pick, and Halliburton is yeah, he's Tyrese Halliburton, man. He's
I just flipped Halliburton and Jalen Williams in a league for Luka.
Fleeced. That's crazy as fuck.
But
But
his team.
Yeah, right. Oh, so yeah, okay, so you keep it next to okay. That's
I have Luka, Cade Cunningham, and Jason Tatum is like my trio to
yeah, that's
for
ridiculous.
Like for forever, as long as I want them. So nice.
Yeah, but like right now, Halliburton's averaging just under 18 points a game. He just can't really do much with that. You know, like it's what are you gonna do with that? You know, like you're the lead guy for the team and you're out there averaging 18 a game. That's
inefficiently, very inefficiently.
And I mean, he's averaging over 8 assists a game right now, which is definitely one of the best in the game. It's just still like you can't do much when the other guys aren't doing enough. And a player that relies so heavily upon his teammates to get these finishing baskets, things like that, instead of himself to get the points, it's not going to work in this kind of league right now. And especially with a team, well, they have been solid. You know, they're right there in the middle of the playoff race. I think they're like 4 or 5 right now. I think they're 4. No, they're 4, I think, with like 30 wins. But still, nonetheless, Tyrese Halliburton's not had a great year. And a lot of people are overlooking it, considering the fact that the Pacers haven't fallen off a cliff. And because of that, I just think a lot more people need to know about these kinds of things. And I think that's something I wanted to mention.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Paul George. I mean, he's part of that 76ers just complete collapse. He signed a 4-year, $211 million contract in free agency. He is averaging 16 points per game. He's only played 35 games, too. He hasn't been healthy. And when he has, he's averaging 16 a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He's still great defensively, 1.8 steals, a half a block. But it's also been like an inefficient 16. And when you give him over 50 mil a year, you're expecting, with his elite defense, 20 to 25 points with good shooting. And it's just he's shooting 42% from the field and 36% from 3. What he is known for is being someone who can get you in the low 20s. He's supposed to be like a number 2, and on this team would have been a number 3 guy that hits threes very efficiently, plays great defense, and get you 20 to 22 points a game, create his own shot so you don't have to rely as much on Embiid with his injury history and Tyrese Maxey. But because he's been bad, it's basically just been the Maxey show. He hasn't been healthy. Embiid hasn't been healthy. And Maxey can only do so much. And the depth around, because they giving these 3 guys so much money, is terrible. And that's just he's just a big reason why this team is just completely collapsed. At this point, it's better that they would have just kept Tobias Harris and then just try to fill out depth. Like, then to trade him away and get that big star. Harris is basically playing almost as good as Paul George for $15-20 million cheaper and a much shorter contract. So I would go with Paul George. He has been hot garbage this year, basically. I mean, he's had some good games here and there, but can't stay healthy. And when he's on the court, he's just not that good either way. It's like Quentin Grimes in the 4 games he's played for the 76ers is averaging more a game. Like, I get it's only 4 games. Quentin Grimes will definitely go back down, but that's just funny that Quentin Grimes can in his 4 games average more. So, and most of them being off the bench when he's not when he doesn't play with like Maxey and Embiid or whatever. So yeah, I just think Paul George has been extremely frustrating, very underwhelming, and so I'm going to have to go with him. As we move on to one more part of the NBA segment I almost forgot about. Conference finals and finals predictions. I will let you go first. Who do you think makes the conference finals in both? And then who do you think wins it?
Ooh, this is very interesting for me. I'm going to go ahead and say that Cleveland is going to make it against Boston. I think the Knicks are good, but they can't stay healthy for the life of them. They have been very inconsistent at times. And if Brunson can't carry in the playoffs like he did last year, then I don't think that they're going to be able to do it again this year with the same kind of almost very similar situations. Although Cleveland is one of the best teams in the game, I think that Boston just has the overall experience. They can definitely put up a fight. But I'm going to go ahead and give Cleveland the edge in the conference finals. I'm sorry. I know you're a Celtics fan. I think in 6 or 7 games, though, I think this would be one of the best conference finals we've seen in a minute. So I do agree that Cleveland's a good team. And last year they stole the show with a lot of things. I think they're a lot more experienced this time around. I think they can really put up some good points. One of the best teams in the league, obviously. And I think they take down another one of those best teams in Boston. As for the Western Conference, I'm going to go with a bit of an interesting one. A lot of people have kind of shit on this team, but I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. I just think that they're two of the best teams in the game. I think the Grizzlies are a good team. I think the Rockets are good teams, but they don't have the experience of a Nikola Jokic. They don't have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the best offenses in the game. I think Oklahoma City is going to go ahead and take on the Denver Nuggets for the trophy. And I just mentioned the Celtics and the Cavaliers. That's an insane matchup. This might even be crazier than that. Go ahead and give me Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets to beat the OKC Thunder as well. I think that the Thunder are a great team. They're great at offense, but there's one big weakness that they can't really do, and that's stop the big men. I think Holmgren's a very good big guy in the middle, but Nikola Jokic is the best big player in the middle.
He's
at
the
center.
Best player in the game right now.
Yeah, literally. I just don't think you can argue that. I'm going to go ahead and give Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets the edge. And then as for the NBA Finals, if there's anybody that can stop Nikola Jokic right now, maybe it's Evan Mobley. Maybe it's not.
And Jared Allen, like the duo. I can see that.
And so for that reason, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers winning in 7 games. NBA Finals champions. I think Cleveland's just on that path right now. Only lost 10 games, 44 wins. They've been one of the best teams, and I think that they're going to show that if there's anybody that can stop Nikola Jokic, it's going to have to be this duo inside with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, two of the better guys in the game. So put them together there, work against him, and then work Mitchell against Murray is probably going to be the biggest not Murray, but whoever their shooting guard would be in this situation, because it'll probably be back and forth with Mitchell versus Murray more than likely. But I do think that's still a disadvantage for Murray.
Back in the days when it was
never
Jazz,
been great on defense.
Back when Donovan Mitchell was on the Jazz and they used to battle it, like the bubble series when they played in the first round, and Jamal and Donovan Mitchell were just dropping like back to like 50 pieces against each other.
Yeah, literally. And so for that reason, I think that that's a big disadvantage, though, this time around for a player like Jamal Murray, because he's not the focus point of this offense. It's going to be Jokic. And so, yes, he can step up when needed, but I just don't think he's going to get his chance. And I unfortunately think that that's going to lead to a Cavaliers win in Game 7.
All right, so
I stole your West prediction.
No, at first I was just a little annoyed because you just stole like my entire like conference finals predictions. I also have Cavs, Celtics, and OKC Denver. The reason I have it being Cavs, Celtics instead of like Celtics Knicks or Cavs Knicks is because I think Cleveland's going to get the first seed just because I don't think Boston's going to care enough to really like go hard down the stretch unless Cleveland falls apart. They have a 5.5 game lead, 6 games in the loss column. So I think because of that, Cleveland is going to be able to hold on. And then I think Boston and New York are clearly they're going to be 2 and 3. But Boston just matches up so well against New York. I mean, so far this year, they've played each other twice, and Boston has kicked the shit out of them both times. They beat them by 27 just this last Saturday. And what was it? Opening night, they beat them by, what was it? They beat them by 23 and 20. And it would have been more, but they were just trying to shoot a bunch of threes at the end so they could break the record. If they were actually trying to play, they could have beat them by 30. Tatum just decides when he plays the Knicks, he wants to go crazy. They just don't have a stop for him, really. And I think Boston's just overall the much deeper and much more experienced team. And New York just can't stay healthy at all.
Yeah, no.
So because of that, I'm going to go with Cleveland, Boston, because they're the clear 3 best teams. I think Cleveland's going to maybe if the Bucks can like turn it on, maybe Giannis can go absolutely crazy, drop his nuts in Cleveland's face mode. I could see it, but they're the only team that like Detroit. As much I just said they were a surprising team beating expectations, but Detroit
Same as the
Indianapolis.
Rockets for me, man. It's just like they're just an experienced young team.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think
It's
the
like,
Rockets are even better than them. It's just the
yeah,
Rockets play in a much harder conference as well.
yeah, no, for sure. But because of that, I think Cleveland does take care. And then yeah, in the West, I think it's OKC's been the best team in basketball this year. It's not really been that close. They've been dominant. Shea's been absolutely insane. The defense has been great. The role pieces are kind of stepping up. Jalen Williams is all-star this year. Chet Holmgren's missed most of the year, and they've been this good. Once he gets healthy and back into swings, they could be even better. So I think they kind of walk through whoever they have to play. And then, yeah, Denver, I'm not kind of, I guess I don't want to say because they haven't been as successful, but it's like you don't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. I don't really want to bet against Nikola Jokic because
Especially with
Nikola
how he's
Jokic
played this year.
exactly, he is just on another level right now, and he's been
Exactly.
he's been the best player in basketball for the last 4 years now, and this is probably the best season of his career. He's been crazy. And the role players have been playing well, and the team's just they started off slow, but they've been playing great since. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're kind of on that trajectory. So I think they probably end up getting that 2 seed. So then they're going to be hosting the Lakers or Houston or Memphis at home. And I just don't see them being able to, any of them having the center to be able to stop Jokic. The Memphis has the best chance because Jaren Jackson Jr. is an elite defender, but he's a power forward more so. I mean, then they have what's his face, the guy that 7'6" dude they just drafted out of Purdue.
Memphis, right?
I'm blanking on the dude's name.
I don't know his name off the top of my head either, but I know who you're
Zach
referring
Edey.
to.
Yeah, Zach Edey. So like maybe Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr., but like I don't think Memphis has enough scores to be able to keep up with Denver. So either way, I think Denver gets through. And then Denver versus OKC, I'm gonna give and then so it's Denver versus OKC and Celtics versus Cavs. I'm gonna pick my Cavs I can't.
Whoa!
I'm gonna pick my Celtics to win. They're just the more experienced team. They've beaten them 2 out of the 3 times this year. The Cavs only have 8 losses. 2 of them are to the Celtics. Almost swept them in the playoffs last year. I think they're just that. I mean, if you look at compare starting 5 to starting 5, the Celtics have the better starting 5. It's close, but they're the more experienced team. They have the best player in the series. Tatum's better than Donovan Mitchell.
I think it's going to come down to Kristaps versus
the big men. How does the big men do?
Kristaps versus Jared Allen.
Yeah, I think you can I wouldn't say, but you can make an argument that the Celtics have the 2 best players in the series. I think Donovan's a little bit better than Jaylen Brown, but it's close. Sure. It's a debate. Like, it's pretty close. So the Celtics have the clear 1, and then it's an argument for 2-3. So because of that, I think the star power and the fact that they have done it, the Cavs team kind of just seems like usually a lot of times when it's your first really, really good year, you kind of struggle in the playoffs. And then the next year is when you come back and we have that experience. I think next year, Cleveland, because they're going to be bringing all these guys, but I think that could be the year they go on the run. I just think Boston, because Boston went through that 2022. They ran into the experienced team that has done it before and the finals, and you saw what happened. The Celtics are the experienced team that's done it before. I think they get through Cleveland because of that. And then I think that's the same thing in the West. I think Denver gets through OKC because they're the experienced team that's done it before. I was advocating for it at the deadline. I think OKC should have traded for Jimmy Butler. I think it just would have made too much sense. They have so many picks. They have so many prospects that some of these guys are never going to crack the roster. So why don't you just send a bunch of them to go and get that piece that doesn't have to be the number 1. He can play off of someone like Shea, plays elite defense, can shoot the ball well, and has that veteran leadership that's been to the finals a couple of times, that has done it and knows how to play in these playoff series instead of all these young guys. So I don't really like that they didn't do that. Not many people agreed with me. They thought, oh, why would they do that when they're such a young team? Because I just said because the assets they had, I think they'd make that trade and they could let them walk and it not really affect them. They still have so many assets. But because of that, they don't have that veteran guy. Denver's done it before. So I think Denver comes away with this one. I think that the Celtics win in 6. I think Denver wins this in 7. I think it comes down to a game 7 where Jokic is just like, nah, we winning. I want to go ride my horses. And then in the finals, I'm going with the Celtics because I'm a Celtics fan. I'm going with the back-to-back. I think that they're just the overall deeper lineup. I get, obviously, Jokic is the best player in the hypothetical theories. obviously.
No, Team USA and Team in Boston both winning. Oh no,
Like,
never would have guessed
like,
this.
yeah, like obviously Jokic is better than Tatum. Not arguing that, but
Oh yeah.
then after Jokic, you can make an argument. Well, Tatum's obviously better than Jamal Murray. Jalen Brown's
Well,
obviously
yeah,
better than Jamal Murray.
yeah.
And then after that, you can make an argument that Kristaps is better than Jamal Murray. They're both
That's close
they're
though.
they're both borderline all-star guys. And then after that, Drew Holiday and Derek White are both better than the third best guy.
You might
Like,
hate this when I'm saying this, but I do think the Nuggets have a better bench.
yeah, I could see that, but the Celtics are about to have the sixth man of the year on their team in Peyton Pritchard, but they don't have their bench is kind of built to play with the starters because there are a bunch of guys who can shoot threes, not good defensively, but then you mix them in with the starters so they can kind of make up for it on defense. Like Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard are both elite shooters. They're not good defensively, so you mix them in with you put like a Tatum and Sam Hauser in for a little bit, so then Tatum can be that defender, and then you just hit Sam Hauser for threes. You could put Drew Holiday and Peyton Pritchard in for a little bit, and it's like Drew Holiday can be the defender, and Pritchard can hit the threes. But overall, like talent, I can see that argument for why Denver is the better bench. But Boston in this hypothetical series has five of the seven best guys in the series.
That's fair.
And because of that, I think that the Celtics will end up with a better record than the Nuggets. Right now, they're 3 games ahead of them, record-wise. So I think they end up with the better record.
And get home court advantage.
And they have beat the Nuggets once this year, so the Nuggets can't have like head-to-head because I think they only play twice. So even if the Nuggets win the next game, then it's just a split. So I think that the Celtics, it would be Game 7 in Boston. I just don't see. I don't see them losing a Game 7.
Yeah, they're not the St. Louis Blues. They just can't come in and win Game 7 in TD Garden.
Yeah, I don't think they're winning in Game 7 in Boston to a team that's been there before and already won a chip. So I'm going to go with the Celtics to win in 7 games, especially after I think the Nuggets are going to be more tired out going through the West because I think Boston sweeps whoever they play. So yeah, Boston sweeps whoever they play in the first round. Maybe it goes they win in 5 because it's like they're going to be playing like Orlando or Miami or Atlanta. So I think they probably win in 5. Then in the second round's going to – then after that, then it really gets tough for them. Then they have the Knicks, the matchup well against, and then the Cavs.
I think you beat the Knicks in 6, and then if you beat the Cavs, it's either in 6 or 7.
Yeah, but then the Nuggets, you're going to have to go through like a Dallas or a Minnesota who beat them last year.
I think they could beat them. Dallas.
But I don't.
If they don't have AD for the playoffs, bro.
Oh, I think they will. I think AD will be back.
Well,
but AD shines defensively when he's playing as the 4. And in the Lakers, they try to play him as the 5 a lot. And Dallas, he doesn't have to do that. They have Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford, who are both capable, good defending 5. So you can roll one of them out with Anthony Davis. You can kind of have like a Twin Towers, like how that, and then funnel through Jokic. Kind of that's how the Raptors beat Giannis in 2019. They had Marcus Gasol and Serge Ibaka, and then they funneled Giannis into the paint. And then obviously Jokic can shoot threes. Is elite offensively better than Giannis was that year. But they can do a lot of things where they can try and force Jokic to work in the paint. And they have multiple great paint defenders where they can slow him down, not stop him, slow him down. And then they have a backcourt guy that can get his bucket and Kyrie. So I think if they match up against the Mavs, and then the Mavericks can steal 2 games in that series, I think the Nuggets would win in 6. And then after that, then you're going to be playing like a Lakers team. If Luka and LeBron figure it out, I get Jokic will probably eat whoever he plays. But like if LeBron, if LeBron, Austin Reeves, and Luka can figure out that chemistry in the next month, you're going to have to score 140 points to beat them because they're going to score a lot of points. Even these 2 games, it was against the Jazz, but Luka coming off 2 months, not playing very good, not having much chemistry. The offense dropped 132 and then 119. Like that offense is absolutely elite. So I think because of that, they can get, and it's LeBron and Luka both known playoff risers. I think that's at least a 6-game series. So you have to go through that. And then after that, you get to OKC, the best team in the playoffs. That's probably a 7-game series. I think they're going to be more worn out than Boston. I think Boston's going to be a little bit fresher. I think their path to the finals is easier, so I think that's why they end up getting this done. And my very long-winded answer. So that is it for the NBA segment. We will just talk a little bit of Bills. There's been some recent Bills news, not like a lot, but they fired Matthew Smiley, their specials teams coordinator. Yay. They fired. Then today they fired, it was like Dave something, their strength and conditioning coach. I don't really know much about that, but I've seen a couple of like Bills accounts, like Bills fan accounts saying it's a good thing. So I don't know. He's been there since 2013. So I don't really know what to make of that, but figured I'd announce it. But the big news is James Cook, Monday night, was it?
Yeah.
I think it was, or Tuesday night, was on Instagram Live and pinned his comment saying $15 million a year. So everyone was like, oh, he looks like he wants his new contract. He wants $15 million a year. And then someone on Twitter was like, if you don't think James Cook's worth $15 million a year, you were dropped on your head as a kid. And then James Cook quote tweeted it with like those 100 emojis, like saying he fully agrees. Like, so he thinks he fully deserves that 15. And then obviously the stupid offseason, the stupid drama where player unfollows all the Bills players and team and takes the Bills out of their profile picture and blah blah blah. Someone with no life
all his photos in Bills uniforms.
Yeah, someone with no life figured that one out. So that is also reported. That's just a common negotiation strategy. Stupid, doesn't make any sense. Don't know why it has an impact, but whatever. So I guess I want to get your thoughts on what the Bills should do with James Cook.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think personally pay him. Ever since LaShawn McCoy, we haven't had a running back. Like Devin Singletary, Zach Moss never really got it done. You can't risk it and get rid of him. And however, at the same exact moment, though, you have to realize that the Bills weren't willing to go out and pay Saquon Barkley this past offseason, to bring him into Buffalo. What makes you think they're going to pay even more money now to retain James Cook, who had a way worse season statistically than Barkley, because Barkley broke so many records? And so I do think James Cook's a good fit for this team. He's a very good player, but 15 mil is a little too much. I think it's a little too rich. I'm okay with 10 to 12 range, but anything over 12 is really pushing it, in my opinion. And 15 mil a season, you might, bro, I'll give you the keys to my car at that point so you can drive yourself the fuck away from me, because that's crazy. $15 million is a little rich for a running back, especially in today's league. I think Barkley's the league leading running back in salary right now, and he
McCaffrey
makes McCaffrey. How much does McCaffrey make a year?
19.
I think Barkley's
second. I think Barkley. Yeah, McCaffrey has just got absurd contract because of how valuable it is to like a Shanahan system.
Yeah, not even just that though. The fact that he can catch and run the ball.
Yeah. Well,
I think James Cook can, just not nearly as well.
Football, so yeah,
not nearly as well. And so because of that, I do think that James Cook, I'd love for him to come back. I'd love to have James Cook on the team next year, especially with the 16 touchdowns he had. He was great. But if you really want that much money, man, like, I'm sorry, but like, it's just not worth it, especially in today's league. You're just not going to have enough money to pay a running back like that, especially if we want to go and make a Myles Garrett trade or a Max Crosby trade, something like that. If we want to make that work, there's literally like almost 0 to none possibility of that happening if we go out and give him this kind of extension. I just think that it would take a hell of a lot of cap restructuring from all the other players, and asking them to restructure all their contracts for one guy in James Cook is just very unfortunately unlikely. And so because of that, I wouldn't like to see us give him 15 mil, but anywhere in the 10 to 12, go and do it immediately. If he takes a 3-year, $12 million a season, I'd love that. I'd be very excited. And if you do end up caving in and giving him the 15 mil, if that does happen, I want it to be on a short-term deal, because this is the first year we've seen James Cook do anything remotely close to what he did this season. And so because of that, he had a good year last year, very good year, but this year, 16 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards, good to elite almost. And because of that, you can't risk him having a one good year and paying him $15 million for 5 seasons because of it. So realistically, I'd say if you do cave in and give him 15 mil, maybe 1-2 year deal. And if you choose to give him anything lower than that, if he will agree to it, like around 12, I'd be okay with a 4-year deal, like basically the Josh Jacobs treatment, 4 years, 48 mil. That'd be perfect for me.
Yeah. So like during the season, I was like, nah, let him walk unless he wants unless they return for like 6, 7 mil. I'm like, running backs are so replaceable. And then by the end of the year, I'm like, all right, I'll sign him maybe like 8 mil. And then this playoff run was like, oh please, I please bring him back. Give him like 10 to 12 mil. But now that I'm seeing he wants 15, bye.
Yeah, no point. No.
If he starts, I saw a report that he's gonna like hold out and like he will not be a part of anything if he doesn't get that contract. Well, then send him in the Myles Garrett trade. Go send him to Cleveland. Go send him to Vegas, where you can go get paid and play for some crap team. To get Crosby, because imagine like say, oh, I will not play unless I get 15. They just won't cave in. We give up hypothetically Greg Rousseau and James Cook to either of those teams. First. If we're giving up both of those guys to either of those teams, I don't think we have to give up a first round pick. I think 2 seconds, Greg Rousseau and James Cook can get you Max Crosby or Myles Garrett, especially Max Crosby. But I think
especially considering the Raiders need running back desperately.
Well, and I think also the Browns do because Nick Chubb is washed and Jerome.
Yeah, just not nearly as much. Like
not
the Browns,
not
the Browns, but the Raiders' lead running back last year was fucking Zamir White.
Yeah, no, yeah. I agree.
And Alexander Madison.
They desperately need it. But with the Browns, I think if you give up Greg Rousseau and James Cook, I don't think you have to give up a first round pick to either of those guys because those are two like fringe Pro Bowl caliber guys that James Cook is a top 5 to 10 running back and Greg Rousseau is a top 10 to 15 defensive end. Those are both great players. You can go and pay while you're rebuilding and you have all this cap space to be able to afford these guys as pieces to build for your next regime. So I think he would be a great trade piece to add in for either of those teams. Or if we want to go get Micah Parsons, send him to Dallas. They also need a running back. Or even Cincinnati for Trey Hendrickson. That one's the least likely.
And then he can join his brother.
But all of the teams that need that are willing to trade like their top pass rushers also need running backs. So it's like perfect. If he'll sign, all right, we get him down to like 3-year 36, 4-year 48, bring him back. I think James Cook's very valuable. But I also think this is a great offseason if we need a running back because this running back class is super deep.
I think the most I'd ever go with James Cook realistically is 13 mil.
I guess I would not be too happy. I wouldn't be too happy with that.
Like a 4-year 52, 4-year 52 I could live with.
That's 14 mil, isn't it?
4 years, 52.
Oh, so yeah, no,
13, 26, 39, 52.
Yeah, I was thinking 3-year 42 for some reason in my head.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. No, that's you're right. I if we're giving him 13, I wouldn't want to give him more than 3 years. 3-year 39, I would be upset at 4-year 52.
I mean,
I really don't want to give him more than 3 years anyways. I think 3-year 36 is like the ideal contract. But if he's not willing to sign that, trade him to one of these teams that isn't very good, that really wants is willing to trade their star pass rushers. Like, all right, if you value getting paid over playing for a championship team, you can go to one of the worst teams in the league because we're going to go use you to get ourselves a star pass rusher. Then you have because it's like I do not want to give a running back 14, 50 mil to play 50 to 60% of the snaps in a game. And I know people are like, well, why don't you play
Especially
more?
When Josh is always going to be the best player.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, why don't you play him more? Probably because we have the best pass blocking / receiving running back in the league. Like, I don't think there's anyone out there that is as good at being a receiver and pass blocking like combined than Ty Johnson. He is the best third down back in the league. We still have
to bring him back.
Exactly. I think we will. So there's like, why would we put James Cook on the field in those situations when Ty Johnson just flat out better at that? And then it's always shown that like giving running backs heavy usage just doesn't end well. It puts the wear and tear in their body. That's why we drafted a Ray Davis to on those early downs take away some of the, so like no, I don't want to pay a running back that much. I don't want to play a running back more than 50, 60% of the snaps also because I don't want him getting injured. So like if he wants 14, 15 mil, put him in the Myles Garrett or Max Crosby trade so we don't have to give up a first round pick because that would be ideal. If we go like to get Myles Garrett, we go Greg Rousseau, James Cook, 56, and then throw in Tylen Grable, and then maybe our second next year, even a third or like a third instead of the second, or maybe just the second and keep Grable. Like there's a lot of things you can do. I don't think we'd have to, or maybe give up Grable and the second so we don't have to give up a first, and we keep both of our firsts over the next 2 years. I would be absolutely ecstatic because then we can use our first this year to get a D tackle or corner, and our second this year to get like a corner or like a wide receiver. Yeah, or I guess if Genty falls. But this running back class is deep. We have 3 4th-round picks when we get our 4th-round comp pick for Gabe Davis. We can just draft a running back. Yeah, we can just draft a running back in the 4th round. One of them is going to fall. We could get like a RJ Harvey or maybe a Quinshon Judkins fall or Cam Scatabo. There's or Dylan Sampson. There's a lot of really good running backs.
Cam Scatabo is going to fall.
Exactly. I bet you one of them falls to we have the Bears 4th-round pick, so that's an early 4th-round pick. And I think we can just draft a running back and move on from him. Do I want to see it happen? No. I think James Cook's a great valuable piece. He was the 2nd best running back in the playoffs this year. But if he does want that, sometimes you got to make tough decisions so we don't run into last year where we were negative 40 million cap space and we had to start cutting a bunch of people. Like I don't want to run in that. I want to be smarter with our cap. And there's also big fish we need to get on defense. So if he wants that money, we can use him instead of picks to get that big fish on defense and then just draft another running back. Like I've always been on that train is just draft running backs because like this is probably what the first year that a running back's paid. I think this might be like the first time in my lifetime that a running back was paid top 5 and they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Patriots, I understand. Yeah, like the Patriots and the Chiefs, their strategy's always been rotate backs. I get Josh Allen isn't Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady, but he's close, like on talent and skill. Obviously, he's not close on like legacy or anything.
They need less of a running back because Allen can do it himself.
Exactly. It's like we have an elite quarterback where we don't need the elite running back to pair him with. Jalen Hurts, I don't think is an elite quarterback, so they had to get an elite running back to pair him with to like overmatch that. I guess Baltimore's kind of different just because how elite Lamar is. Having an elite running back just makes that rushing duo so deadly. But like, and having an elite running back obviously helps your quarterback. But if you're paying them that much where it detriments the rest of the team, it's just not worth it. So I want James Cook back if we can get him 12 mil. But if he's dead set on 14, 15, no.
It's over.
No. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Fair enough.
You can go play with your brother in Dallas or go rot in Vegas or go rot in Cleveland or something because you value money over winning.
Fair.
Yeah. And then I would be fine if our running back trios like RJ Harvey, Ray Davis, and Ty Johnson next year. Our running game probably takes a little bit of a hit, but with how good our offensive line is, and then Ray Davis continuing to develop, and Josh Allen being Josh Allen, I don't think it takes that much of a dip. And if we can get a field stretcher wide receiver like a Marquise Brown or a Jalen Royals in the draft, that where teams aren't running as much single high against us, I don't think it hurts our running game at all. Because if I think we need a field stretcher to help a run game, because the Bills play or face the 2nd most single high defense in the league, like 60% of the time, teams are playing single high because we just didn't have a field stretcher. We just didn't have one, which it just happened that
Josh Allen's best career, what did he have? Josh Brown.
Exactly.
Josh Brown.
Exactly. And that opens up the run game because if they have to have 2 safeties back, that's one less player in the box.
Yeah, it was John Brown and Diggs.
With how good our wide receiver or with how good our O-line is at opening up holes and with how good Joe Brady is at designing runs, you take someone out of that box and it helps our run game tremendously. So I think if we trade James Cook, draft a running back, and then get a field stretcher wide receiver, I think our run game doesn't take a hit at all. And then we can just focus our majority of our resources on getting a very good one-tech D tackle, a Myles Garrett or Max Crosby, and another secondary piece.
Yeah, indeed. I agree.
We will get more into Bills as we get closer to March. Obviously, right now is kind of like the dead time in the NFL for a couple of weeks. I just realized we forgot to talk about the Super Bowl.
Oh,
skipped right over that. So the Super Bowl did happen. Kind of a little anticlimactic. There's so much build up. Chiefs 3-peat, and then the Eagles just went in and was like, nope.
Fuck you.
Yeah, they slapped them up and down the board. Mahomes with the worst game.
The Eagles have now done it twice, stopping a team from 3-peating.
Yes, exactly. They just were like, nope, that's not happening today. And
Bobby, give me my belt.
What happened is they just built a super team. Howie Roseman is the best general manager in football. Nick Sirianni is probably Nick's. It's like him and like Sam Presti, and Brad Stevens, I guess you could say the Dodgers GM, but that's not really fair because they just get to pay everyone.
The fucking blank check. Write what
Yeah.
you want. I'll
Yeah,
talk to
it's
you later.
baseball. It's much harder because you just there's no salary cap. It's much harder to
Right.
judge. And then in the NHL, there's not really anyone. I would say at one time, Tampa GM, but maybe like the Golden Knights GM or the Capitals GM for the work he's done, or Boston. It's harder. I think Howie Roseman's probably the best GM in football or best GM in sports, and then like Sam Presti and Brad Stevens are kind of like right there
Next in
behind him.
line. Yeah.
But yeah, what Howie Roseman did, and what he was able to build on the defensive line is it wasn't just good pass rushers; it was elite up the gut. And that they just got pressure from everywhere. Jalen Carter up the gut took all of that like attention. Then Milton Williams and Josh Sweat and this, that, and the third were able to eat because of it. So I think it was an absolutely just dominant performance by that D line. And I think if you're Brandon Beane, if this shows you anything, is you need to go and get a Myles Garrett and a Max Crosby, and you have to go and get if you have to trade your first this year to go and get Myles Garrett or Max Crosby, then you have to go and trade for, or you have to, or not trade, you have to go and sign one of the top D tackles in free agency, like a DJ Jones. If you can find a way to keep pick 30, then you just draft a Kenneth Grant or a Walter Nolan or whatever. But you need to
I don't
add
think Grant's
another,
gonna be there.
maybe trade up a little bit, but that might be hard with the fact that we'll have less assets if we trade for one of those guys. But I think you need to add a game changer on the edge, and you have to add someone as a one tech. For anyone out there, if you are looking at any D tackle the Bills to draft and they are under 310 pounds, just forget they exist. Just take them off your board immediately. A 3-tech defensive tackle for the Bills has about zero value. We already have 2 3-tech guys in Ed Oliver and Dwayne Carter, who Dwayne Carter looked great before the injury, and you're not going to give up after 1 year. We don't need a 3-tech. We need a big boy who can fucking take up some blocks, weighs 320, 330, 340, and can stop the run. The big thing is take up blocks because our linebackers are a little bit smaller. They're not great at getting off blocks. So if we have someone but they have great instincts and they can hit holes and make plays. So what you do, you get someone who can take up blocks. So then these offensive linemen can't get to the second level, and you let someone like Terrell Bernard, who is quite frankly pretty bad against big offensive linemen getting off blocks, you let him use his instincts to hit holes, and he'll play a lot better, like he did 2 years ago when DaQuan Jones was playing and looking really good at Albert's best year. There weren't not as many guys were getting to the second level. Terrell Bernard was flying around making plays. This year, our D tackle play, because DaQuan Jones was awful, and outside of inconsistent Eddie, it was pretty bad. Except for like the Houston game, which was Terrell Bernard's probably best game of the year, and maybe the Baltimore game. They were getting to the second level constantly, and they were getting hands on Bernard. And he's so small, he can't get off those blocks. So I think if you're Brandon Beane, you seeing anything, it's you need to invest in the defensive line like Howie Roseman has. Sorry that I carried on off the game, but then for the Chiefs side, I think what it is their
O-line.
They have three.
They literally had to put a left guard, Joe Thuney, at left tackle.
They have 3 elite offensive linemen and 2 really bad ones, and it looks like one of them is going to lose in free agency. It's kind of like, where do you go for Kansas City from here? It's obviously it's not like, oh, the sky's falling. You still have
the windows closed.
Yeah, so you still have Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo and Patrick Mahomes, but like Travis Kelce might retire. Chris Jones probably
his
had
deadline's March 14th, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. Right? Chris Jones has had his worst season of his career in the last like 5 or 6 years. It wasn't bad. He was still a game record, but not his best season.
He's been very inconsistent with injuries. He got injured in the Super Bowl, so he's probably going to be doing off-season stuff.
He injured his neck, and then he also injured his knee. I don't know if you saw the video.
The massaging his neck,
Yeah, and he just winced in pain. And then, so you have that. You have those issues. Not to mention, you only have 11 million cap space, and Charles Omenihu, Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, all of your receivers except for Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are all free agents. And Kareem Hunt, like you have a lot, and some other depth pieces. You have a lot of free agents you have to worry about. Not a lot of cap space. I get you can move things around if Travis Kelce retires. That kind of opens up a lot. But then now you need a tight end. You need someone who can beat zone, because what it is right now with the Chiefs, why their offense has usually been so good, you have someone like Travis Kelce who kills zone coverage. So then you have to run man, but then the Chiefs have gotten a lot of speed guys who can just burn by man, and it's just a deadly combination. You take away Travis Kelce and teams just start running zone, and it eliminates kind of like Xavier Worthy speed. I guess maybe Rashee Rice can come in and be that zone beater, but I don't know where you go here from the Chiefs to get back, especially with someone like Buffalo who isn't losing a lot and they have a lot of assets. Someone like Baltimore who isn't losing a lot, and they were both right there on the cusp of beating you this year. I don't know where you go. Obviously, they're still going to be a top 3 team in the AFC. It's kind of like those 3 teams above everyone else, but they've got a lot of question marks they have to fill this offseason. It'll be interesting to see how they fill it. And then Philly might just start a dynasty. Of course, we get through one dynasty of the Chiefs, and I mean, because Philly doesn't
get through that necessarily.
Philly doesn't lose much. They lose. I mean, Zach Bond's a big one. They got to bring him back, and like maybe and Milton Williams. Like those are some big pieces, but like,
well, Josh Sweat's a free agent, but he's gone.
Oh yeah. Like
he's gone, especially after his remark on the Super Bowl MVP saying he should have won it, having zero respect for his teammate, and he's not coming back.
Yeah, there's a couple of Zach Bond I think is a big one you have to bring back, but like you don't have to bring back.
Yes, they haven't had a good linebacker before Zach Bond. They hadn't had one for forever. So
exactly, like the only offensive lineman you have to replace is your worst one, Mekhi Becton. No, your receivers are set, running back set, quarterback set, secondary set. You bring back Bond, linebacker set. You obviously have pieces like Jalen Carter and Josh Huff and this, that, and the third. You have a lot of pieces up front. As long as you have Jalen Carter, it's going to make everyone else look better. Like they really could. They move some money around, bring back a couple of those guys, hit on a couple more draft picks like they have every single year. It's scary. It's going to be pretty scary for them next year.
Yeah, indeed. I totally agree. Super Bowl dominance, very much so a lot like that Bucs Super Bowl with the Chiefs where they just got smoked. Only this time you don't have a quarterback that's retiring, you got a quarterback that's in the middle of his prime, if you will. I don't think he's that great, but I mean, I think he's going to at least continue to progress. And with that happening, they very much so could turn this into something big.
Yeah. No, for sure. I guess the one big question is how do you replace Kellen Moore? This is now going to be Jalen Hurts' 9th offensive coordinator since he started in college. And it's 10 in the 10 seasons. Like that's got to be tough on him. Because you see how it can go bad when they replace Shane Steichen with Brad Johnson, how last year fell apart. So I guess they're going to have to be careful on who they sign as their offensive coordinator. That's kind of the big piece. Obviously, I'm not saying they're going to be back right away. The Eagles have to go through a Commanders team that's improving. They're going to have to go through the Lions. The Niners, when they're healthy, is always there. The Rams are no slouches. That
obviously whoever they play in the Super Bowl, whether that's the Bills,
Ravens, Chiefs, yeah. Maybe the Bengals if they can figure out defense, but probably not. And then the Packers, if they can get a number one receiver on offense, they could be right there because they have the running back.
I think they need a line too, though. I think they need an O-line and then a linebacker as well. And then definitely
they have other needs, but that offense was pretty good last year without a number one guy. They have a bunch of very good number 2s and 3s. They have an elite running back. They have a very good quarterback, an elite head coach, some good offensive line pieces. You go and get them like a T. Higgins or something, someone that can take that can take that coverage.
I've seen one guy, and that's Luther Burden. I would love that fit.
They could draft a guy. There's a lot of ways they could go. So they could always be in the mix. Yeah, they're not going to be going anywhere. Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave is a good tight end duo. So they're a sneaky team also. It's not the Eagles are automatically winning next year. It's just they should be the favorites, and they're looking pretty scary to repeat again. So yeah. What are your thoughts on the game as I just kind of took 10 minutes?
I mean, the game was very interesting. Obviously, the Eagles dominated the entire beginning of the game. I think the biggest play in this game was the pick 6 from Cooper DeJean. I think that's just absolutely insane. Nick Bosa was definitely going crazy, picked off a black quarterback with trumpet attendance during Black History Month, So Nick Bosa was having the time of his life on the couch. And no better against the team that beat him in the Super Bowl the year prior. So realistically, I know he
should have hit this dance. He should have hit this dance when he scored. That would have been
funny. Either way, though, I do think that it's a very interesting situation. Obviously, 40-22. Worthy had a good game, but let's be real here. All of that was garbage time stuff. 8 for 157 and 2 touchdowns. But, I mean, realistically, none of that was ever going to matter. I am a little mad that Jalen Hurts got Super Bowl MVP. I did think that Cooper DeJean deserved it a little bit more, especially
Just about to ask you
considering
that.
the game was 10-0, and he got the biggest play of the game right there to basically end any hope
There's a
of
turning
Mahomes
point.
coming back, really. It was a very big turning point. And I think that defensive line, Kirby Smart needs to absolutely advertise that, bro. Like Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, everybody up the middle, and that's all former Georgia Bulldogs in the Super Bowl beating
Jordan
the
Davis.
hell. Yeah, Jordan Davis, all beating the absolute hell out of Patrick Mahomes. That's something like he needs to hang up, man. Like this is all I need to show you. And it's just a photo of the D line of the Eagles. Like that's just a ridiculous team. And with the kind of program that they run at Georgia, I wouldn't be surprised if they go and get more Georgia guys. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. They have a winning culture there. They know what they're doing. They know how to win big games and big moments. And the moment wasn't too big for them. As for Mahomes and the Chiefs, nobody did anything in this game aside from Mahomes. And it pains me to say this, but Mahomes was terrible, like absolutely terrible. I remember that interception he threw, like backed up against their own like 15-yard line, and he threw a pass over the middle. It was just a terrible pass, and it got picked off. And I was like, "What the fuck was that? Where the hell was that? The AFC Championship game, dude?
Yeah.
Like, please, like, of course.
Why can't you have that
the
against
Super
us?
Bowl.
Like, why can't
Yeah,
you miss throws
exactly.
against us? He doesn't miss anything against us. He's like gone.
Yeah, I know.
But then against everyone
60-yard
else,
bomb in between both of our safeties, absolute dime piece.
But then
3-yard
against every
pass
other
to the
team-
tight end, incomplete or intercepted.
it's funny. Both times their Pat Mahomes has gone crazy against us in the AFC Championship game. He followed it up with like
A
it's
Super
funny.
Bowl loss.
No, or every time actually he's played us in the playoffs, he follows it up with like a far worse game.
Except for last year.
Well, they only scored 17 points against the Ravens. That's a worse game than he had against us.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
That one's the closest, but that was definitely a worse game. And the 13 seconds game followed it up, choking a 21-3 lead to the Bengals, and threw a pick in the fourth quarter and a pick in overtime. And they easily could have won that and choked that. Against the Bucs, scored 9 points. Against the Eagles, scored a bunch of garbage points, but it didn't really matter. Like, why does he go off against us and then the following week followed up with a stinker? Like every
it's
time.
like Tatum against the Knicks, man. I don't know what he has against us, but man, he hates us. But either way, this game was very disappointing from like a just overall fan perspective, wanting to see an enjoyable game. But at the same time, I can't lie, I had some sick thrill laughing at the TV, watching Mahomes cry. Like it was just the best thing ever. Absolutely decimated in this game, dominated from start to finish. Obviously, they made it close, if you will, at the end. Got fucking garbage time points to make it look better than it was, but they never had a goddamn chance, and I love that fact. Eagles, congratulations, hell of a Super Bowl. And one thing I will say, right before the game, everyone was asking me who I thought was going to win, and I said the Chiefs were going to win 35-27 in a higher scoring game. They're like, it's not going to be that high scoring, and then it ended up being very high scoring. But here's the thing. I said the reason why I think the Eagles were going to lose is because Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball. And that 49-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Smith made me the best throw I've ever seen Jalen Hurts throw in my life. So for that, I will publicly apologize. Thank you for taking down the Chiefs. I appreciate it. You're still not as good as a lot of quarterbacks in the league, but hell, you had a good game, and I won't discredit that. It's just you shouldn't have won Super Bowl MVP. That was Cooper DeJean's to win, and unfortunately for them, obviously you can't reverse that. And I did see that Cooper DeJean led the fan vote, but he didn't lead the overall vote, so that's unfortunate for him. But congratulations to Philadelphia going to the offseason as the best team in the planet, in the NFL, if you will. So we'll see what happens with this offseason.
Yeah, no, I was also laughing at the TV when Kendrick Lamar played Not Like Us, and he goes, "Say Drake," and smiles at the camera. I absolutely laughed. That was absolutely hilarious. A bunch of my friends are like huge Kendrick fans. They don't like Drake that much, so like I've kind of just taken that side. I've taken the Kendrick side, but like the memes are hilarious. And I don't even like rap.
They
but,
not like us.
The artist, like just the messages I've been seeing, like that have come out, like the things he was saying in the halftime show, absolutely brilliant. Like there was just so many underlying messages, like Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam telling him to quiet down and stuff like that. And then he kept teasing Not Like Us the entire time. And then he finally played it and he goes, "Say Drake, I hear you like them young." And I'm just like, wow, that is crazy. I just
On
wanted
the
to bring that
biggest
part up.
stage with everyone watching, and you say that.
Yes.
That's crazy as fuck.
One thing that they need to bring back country. I want to see Morgan Wallen or like Luke Combs or something play
Both.
the halftime show.
That'd
That
be
would be insane. I bet they debut because everyone wants them to make like a feature on a song, like a combined song. And imagine they actually do that and they like debut it
and
at like
release it at the Super
at a
Bowl.
Super Bowl
Yeah.
halftime. I don't think they'll get it next year because it's in San Francisco, the
Yeah,
most like
it's
liberal place in the country. They're
not even just
I'm
that,
not-
the most fucking city place ever.
Yeah, exactly. And like
Pretty bitches.
I guess not to get political, but like more conservatives listen to country music than liberals. That's just how it is. It's just like lifestyles. So being in San Francisco, country music's not as popular. If he was to play in like Dallas or New Orleans, even or down in
New Orleans
Florida,
is pushing it. Florida,
but like,
definitely.
but like I'm just saying, like
I think
or
I
Atlanta.
think
Like
he's
I guess
got a chance
but,
for
like,
next year or after this year because Dallas is probably going to get a chance eventually.
what are there other Super Bowl locations?
I don't know. I know that Dallas is on that list. Maybe US Bank Stadium in Minnesota. They're probably back soon. They'll probably have one. Hard Rock Stadium in Miami's always got one all the time.
I think. All right, so it's San Francisco, then it's SoFi, then it's Mercedes-Benz. I think
it's SoFi again.
In 2027, yeah.
Didn't they just have the one with the Rams in it?
Yeah.
What the fuck? It's dumb.
Money.
And then what was the next one after that?
Mercedes-Benz. That could be because Georgia. Like, I understand Atlanta isn't.
That's close.
But like Georgia is like
that's where he's from, isn't it? Around that
Georgia
area.
State.
From Tennessee.
Luke Combs is North Carolina, and then Morgan Wallen's Tennessee.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I'm
if
cheering
there's ever
on volunteers.
If there's ever a Super Bowl in Nashville, I think Morgan's definitely. Has there been Super Bowls in Nashville?
Oh, he has to pair up. If it's the one in Georgia, he has to pair up with the one girl who says, "I'm wearing Tennessee orange" for him.
Oh, Meg Maroney.
Yeah, no, that'd be the funniest thing ever in the Bulldog Stadium just to say that shit. And she'll be like, "I still want the Dogs to win."
Roger Goodell leaves door wide open for game to land, like Super Bowl to land in Music City. Because they're getting a new stadium.
Yeah, Nashville.
So yeah, when they build the new stadium, yeah, so maybe like 2029 they get the bid, and then Morgan Wallen plays. Oh, that would be absolutely electric. That would be electric.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Yeah, no. So I think that's all we got for today. We kind of rambled a little bit on. It happens, but if you enjoy this, please like and subscribe and share. If I get less lazy, I'll start sharing clips on Twitter or X, but I'm lazy.
You got a lot to choose from in this one.
Yeah. But anyways, this should be put up pretty shortly. Go Team USA, go Celtics, go Bills.
No. Yes, go Bills.
Go Sabres.
Yes, unfortunately. All right, see you guys later.